Hello, my name is Joseph Quigley, and this is my top 32 YCS Niagra deck profile, which I achieved with Floowandereeze. Opening shoutouts to Spree Kingdoms Games in Markham. Great locals that gave me so much support throughout the weekend. I really appreciate that. As well to Enter the Battlefield in Newmarket, another fantastic locals that I started out at when I got back into the game about 5 months ago. And shout out to Floowandereeze Games in Vaughan, a really great place with a lot of strong competitive tournaments that helped me develop as a player. And with that, we can get into the list.
All right, without further ado, here is the deck list. We have the very standard 8 birds, triple Rabina, triple Eaglin, 1 toucan, 1 scree. I oftentimes find myself wishing that there were more good small birds. I definitely lost a couple of games because I couldn't find a single small bird, but I think this is probably the right ratio for the deck. We have our 4 big birds, 1 Ryza, 1 Apex Avian, and 2 M-Pen. I've always been a proponent for 2 M-Pen. I guess I think it opens up so many good lines for the deck. I'll usually side 1 out going second, but this is just a good standard ratio for the tributes. And then my one substantive tech choice for the weekend, double barrier statue. This isn't unheard of, but the vast majority of lists I see run just 1. I decided to go for 2 due to the prevalence of Dark Ruler No More and the thought of being able to more easily reestablish a lock if your opponent has an out, whether that be smashers, imperm, etc. And it did really well for me this weekend. Being able to just easily go into use your Dreaming Town to reestablish M-Pen statue after a Dark Ruler or what have you proved to be pretty effective. Being able to just have a second statue in general and not have to go through Ryza to get to it proved to be really helpful as well. It also made the evenly bait minigame that Floowandereeze often gets a lot easier whenever they go for that end main phase play. If I know that it's so much easier, it's so easy in that scenario to know as long as you have that Dreaming Town, you can very easily reestablish statue M-Pen, so you don't really have to worry about evenly as much anymore. And I did win a couple of evenly bait games because of that as well. It's definitely something I'll be sticking with going forward, I think, at least in this format. Apparently the card of the weekend, Triple D Shifter. I would say I saw this an above average amount over the course of the weekend. Guess an insane hand trap, completely kills tiers and definitely hurts Sprite. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't get hit. It is just so insane. 1 Crow, really nice to search out for Bina, really strong this format. It's becoming pretty standard now. Guess some good extra disruption. For the pots, I was running 2 Prosperity, 2 Extravagance, and then triple Duality. One of the Extravagance should be a Prosperity, and definitely will be. I just didn't feel up to spending for a 3rd copy when I knew there was a reprint coming out this week. I definitely like the idea of running 1 or 2 Extravagance to up consistency. I'm not sure if I'll find room for it in the future, but I think it's a good option. The very standard triple map, triple advent, both really strong cards. You got to max out on. Hopefully, the TCG doesn't get down to 1 map like the OCG just did. Triple Dark Ruler, absolutely necessary go second card. It is your only hope to deal with Sprite going second, and quite a few other decks for that matter. Not quite as effective against tiers all the time, but Floowandereeze just generally I think has a very good matchup against tiers regardless, and it can still stop stuff like Draco's Depalia and the like. Double Mystic Mine along with the 1 Terraforming. I only resolved this once this weekend, and it did its job there to stall. Basically, this is just to get your plays through in go second scenarios. It can be pretty effective at that, but it's not the be-all, end-all. I was siding it out in games 2 and 3, generally for fear of back row hate. I think I could have maybe kept one in more often. But I think it's a pretty debatable choice. I can definitely see cutting it, but I don't think it's unreasonable to play either. And then for the one-ofs, we have one Unexplored Winds, Feather Duster, Called By, and one Trap. Unexplored Winds is just naturally crazy board breaking card. Called By, there are definitely enough hand traps now to make this, I think, very mandatory. Feather Duster, I wanted one good main deck out to Mystic Mine and the like. I did brick on this a few times, but it's also a power card that came in clutch a couple times as well. So I kind of like running in the main, even though I know a lot of Fluists are not. And then one Trap, I know a lot of Flu players are on to 2 Trap now. I think that's reasonable. I had a hard time finding space for it, but there were definitely scenarios where I would have liked to have searched a second copy, or hands where just drawing this managed to save it. So I think it's reasonable to go for 2. I just don't necessarily think it's the be-all, end-all. I'll do the side deck next. We have the Go First package, 1 Trap Trick, 2 Judgment, along with triple Featherstorm. I definitely liked being able to essentially have a 4th copy of this insane game-winning card. I could even see running an extra Trap Trick. I guess wasn't too sure about the possibility of bricking on too many or running out potentially. It's iffy. And then 2 Judgment. I like to find room for perhaps a 3rd, but I think you can only go with so many Go First cards in your side deck. But Solemn Judgment was very good for me this weekend. It won me a couple of games and came in clutch. We have, of course, the Ultimate Slayers along with the Brick, so we can run Trouble Sunny. Very strong card, I think. Definitely something worth running. It didn't do too great for me this weekend, though. I had 2 or 3 times where I drew this along with D-Shifter, and unfortunately this doesn't work under D-Shifter, which is a bit of an issue. My last game of the day, I also drew this in a brick hand, which was a bit unfortunate. I was close if I guess found a small bird, but sometimes with brick, that is the deck as it goes. Still, I think very necessary, even though it can have some situations where it doesn't work out. Double Evenly Matched. This was kind of the board breaker I ran in games 2 and 3 instead of Mystic Mine. Definitely want to find room for a 3rd copy of this. It's very strong, this format, I think, dealing with tiers, dealing with back row decks. It just does a lot. And then for the back row hate, double Twin Twister and 1 red reboot. I didn't side these in very much. I didn't run into a lot of back row decks, really. But you kind of need to respect that possibility. Red reboot, I kind of put in last minute for fear of virus cards. Didn't really end up signing it in very often. I drew it once and it wasn't very good in that scenario. I guess kind of worry about the possibility of Flu doesn't OTK that easily, so red reboot can be a problem in that regard. But those virus cards can absolutely end you, so it's debatable, I think. And the least important part, the extra deck, I did not go into this all weekend except for the Slayer targets. You have Entis, Garura for fusions, Trouble Sunny, crazy card against Lynx, Awesome and Omega to deal with those types as well. Both can recycle themselves and have some niche utility. These didn't come up that often, but they're nice to have with that Ultimate Slayer package. We have the Zeus line. Didn't use it this weekend, but have had used it on some other occasions, and it's always good to have the option. We have the Honorary Slayer targets. These can both be decent options on occasion. With Ultimate Slayer, there is, in theory, a chance that you can maybe go into them, but I have personally never managed to do that. One anima in case you find a scenario where it works. I've only pulled this off once or twice in my history of playing deck, and didn't happen in this tournament. We have some free guest utility links. I probably want to trade these out for perhaps some other options. I'm not entirely sure on these. I guess so really go into the extra deck, and I didn't end up doing it this weekend. And then our one OTK option and Tower Breaker and Borrelsword. I want to get an Underworld Goddess in there to deal with towers more easily, but Borrelsword, I didn't have the card for this weekend, and Borrelsword can do that well enough, I think. So my matchups this weekend, I played 3 tier players, and I went 3-0 against them. The deck is very good against tiers. For the one-off wins, I beat Mech Knights, Drytron, the Flu Mirror match. That was a very good game. Game 1 where we went for 30 minutes, had a great back and forth, and then games 2 and 3 were just decided by us featherstorming each other. That's kind of the way it goes. And then to cap off, 5 of my last 6 matches were against Sprite, and I went 2-3 against them. Much harder for the deck to deal with Sprite and the negates they put up. We just don't have the same kind of gas that tiers do to deal with that. There were some very close matches. I only had one 2-0 all weekend. I definitely perhaps could have done a bit better against Sprite with some more luck, but I would say I had a lucky enough weekend overall.
Closing thoughts, it was a really wild weekend for me. It was beyond anything I thought I could achieve. I didn't go in there with any expectations, didn't even book a second night. I thought I'd be in and out on day 1, doing side events or something after scrubbing out. And it all went much better than I could have imagined. I'm no great pro. I didn't do much hard prep. I just went to a few locals going into the event. I have never topped anything of significant note. No regionals. My last YCS was 8 years ago when I was paid in battling boxers, which went about as well as you might expect. But I knew the deck well, and I was able to perhaps take it easy when I got there up until I started winning a lot more than I imagined. I'm not sure what to make of it. I guess if you know your deck well and have a good mindset, sometimes good things can happen to you, I suppose. I guess with that, I'll bid farewell. Stay true, duelists, and remember to keep having fun. Take care.